what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my palette knife. I'm going to go back to this plate that has a little bit of white on the side because I don't want to touch all my paints, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of white on the back part of my palette knife, kind of wipe it off. I don't want too much, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, I'm holding this almost flat, okay, if you look at it, barely touching it. And I want a soft edge to it, but I want to pick up some of those raised marks that I made earlier, okay? So don't, when we did this in the members weekend, I'm gonna show you this up close, you don't want a hard edge of where your palette knife starts and stops. That's why you're lifting off. You have it it's so slight. It's like this on your, and you're going like this. So if you get a hard edge on your white, what you do is just take a clean part of your paint towel and just wipe the edge off, okay? Or your finger would be fine as well if your hands are clean. So what I'm doing is I'm barely gonna mark this through, and it just really adds a nice touch to it. Just something so soft, and make sure that you're going in different directions. Like, don't make it in the same direction. All right, you can use chunkier paint like that. All right, but also make sure it doesn't have a hard edge to it. And what I mean is that you see like a blatant line, like right here, it's close to having a hard edge. So I touch that off with my finger just a little bit to soften it, okay? So I'm going to do this across here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and if you have a light background like me, like you could use a nice amount of white on here and it looks really cool and it just like peeks through. If you touch your wheat by accident, that's totally fine as well. You know, you can always wipe it off with a paint cloth, but I feel that it would be fine. But you decide, you know, what bothers you about painting, what doesn't. I always tell people to like fix what they don't like, because you don't look on the wall and be like, oh, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. Of course, as we grow in our painting like that, you know, as we paint more, you are definitely going to, Bailey Lee, you're going to, you know, get the strokes a little bit better, and everybody gets better over time, and you'll see that in your paintings. But what I'm saying is, if there's something right now that you know that you may want to change, do that while you're making it, you know. But yeah, we all look back at our paintings and like, oh, look at the difference, you know, which I love to see, especially when people post that in the membership. So I'm going to take a little bit of white. What I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the shape of my painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, like, I want a little bit of white here. I'm going to kind of like lay that down on there. But you also have to, you have to follow your shape for this as well. And if you don't like an edge, just lightly brush the edge with your finger or your paint towel. Okay. So I'm going to touch some of these pumpkins with this bright white, okay? I'm just about out of white on my just when I, right here, just follow the shape, nice and slow. But I'm going to see if I can make it here. I don't know if I can. Bailey Lee, I'm so sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go here. Because I know also a lot of you have pets, and so if your pets hear my pet barking, then there goes your peacetime also. Okay. So this part I don't like as much. So take a little bit of water. I'm going to wipe that off. And then I need to put a little bit of white on my plate. So that's part of my problem here. All right. Now, there's some people that don't like, you know, the palette knife work, you know, at the end. And that's totally up to you. You don't have to do it. So I'm going to bring this up just a little bit more. I feel like I need a little bit more up here and there. Now that I have some paint, I'll follow around the corner, okay? And then this one, like I told you, this one, I'm not doing any. This one you can barely see, but because of our green, but I want, you know, I want the palette knife work on here. I'm gonna skip around, follow my shape. Okay. A little bit more paint. I'm going to try to get some in the smaller area. And also, if you have a different tool you want to use to get into the smaller areas, like you want to use your paintbrush, you can. There's no rule against that, for sure. So once I get that in, I'm going to decide, like, do I want, like, I think I'm going to take a little bit of paint off of that section there and right there. And then I might put a little bit like right here. And then we have our big pumpkin, and then we'll be done. Okay. So I'm gonna go here. Pull that back in. Because a lot of times, like, it's not following the shape that you want. Like, it's hard for you to make a curve with it. Just wipe it off. No big deal, you know. So like here, I want to pull that in just a little bit right there, okay? Just like right here, tiny bit right there. So you can do that. It doesn't have to go on perfectly the first time. Okay, I need a little bit more paint. But I do think, like, especially on like this pumpkin and the blue pumpkin, that it makes a big difference with the highlights in there. So I'm gonna follow my shape here. Now that, a little bit too much pressure, a little too much paint. So I'm gonna just pull that off there. Okay. So if I'm doing this on my own, like without filming it, I actually would be flipping this. So I have a better angle instead of just switching back and forth. I do switch back and forth with my hands a lot with a palette knife, but I would be flipping this just because the camera is like right in front of me right here. So I'm also gonna pull this down a little bit. I feel like that was too much. And I think I want a little bit more of a highlight, like right up at the top there. So I'm going to get a little bit more paint and go up a little bit higher, maybe right here, right here. I feel like these might be a little too low. And this one. So right here, like if you do something and you feel like it took away too much of your shadow. So I feel like this is a good mistake to happen. So what I want to do is I'll just go back and get my brown and my burnt sienna, and I'll just put that back in, like just barely touch it. You know what I mean? Get your shadow back in there where you need it. So everything is fixable. Know that you can try anything with acrylics, and you can go back and you can fix anything that you want. Okay, so don't ever feel like you can't do something, because like when someone says, oh, I ruined it, it's never ruined. I promise, never ruined.